suppose if you've got any questions online, I think there's a way of you getting your questions in. I think we're going to start with Trevor. I think Trevor, right, okay, we'll just get a microphone to you now. That's okay. We've also got Rhiann Davis. Sorry, Rhiann. The chair's also joining on the panel as well. So any questions for any of them? Right, okay, so we start with Trevor.
Okay, can everybody hear me okay? Yeah. Fine. Talk disability. BBC's theme for the year, to create disability awareness. Brilliant. That's what I thought when I first heard about it. So I got in contact with them just to let them try and make sure that they, not for doing anything for myself, that they show positive things and to show disabled people as positive people living, getting on. And the first couple of things I saw didn't really reflect that. So I pushed them a little bit, and they got in contact with me and said, well, how do you see things? And I explained a little bit about a project which going on in Kenya at the moment, and which an organisation which I personally run was running. And I explained a little bit about the project. The project's called Fursha, which means opportunity in Swahili, and it's run in an area where it's very remote, poverty is rife, and literacy levels are low, and there's absolutely no welfare. There's no rights at all, and it's totally different. You know, we live in luxury here compared as disabled people, and it's an initiative which we've trained and supported disabled people and their families to create their own sustainable enterprises. And it's been running quite a few years. We set up a microloan fund, and which is very small, from £4 to £40, which is nothing, for disabled people and their families to get their enterprises going. And it's really working out really well. So I mentioned that, and they said, well, that sounds amazing. We'll come round and film you. So they came to my house, filmed me, did a fantastic interview. And after the interview, the reporter, I didn't even know the camera was on, or I was being recorded, about, you know, why I was in a wheelchair and asking lots of questions. And I was very frank with him. And anyway, the broadcast came on television. And, excuse my French, bugger me, there was nothing positive in that at all. It was showing the negative all the way. They showed me as it was all disabled people portrayed as sufferers and victims. Even the people, I even sent round in Kenya, our project coordinator, with 4 or 5 people on motorbikes, went right up country filming all sorts of people on their mobile phones, which I gave the footage to just specifically for this interview. So anyway, what I'm getting at here is, you know, that if disabled people are being portrayed as sufferers and victims, and that's going out to millions of people. Millions of people are going to be seeing disabled people as sufferers and victims. And, you know, like, what's going on? You know, I've got a stand over here today, and if anybody wants to see what that was all about, they're more than welcome to have a look. So I've actually got a, they can see the interviews. There's a radio interview as well, which was much better. But the TV one, I was crying because, you know, not because it's nice publicity, obviously, for the organisation, but why? And you know, that why? So please do something about it. Okay.
So we've heard lots of examples of that this morning. It was really well put. So I think there's 2 things here for the panel, possibly, is is this thing of, is it lazy? Is it, what kind of journalism? How do we educate people before they do the interview? And then what process would Trevor have had afterwards to then say, do you know what, I'm not happy with the way it was portrayed, so that we can start to educate. And I know it's not our job to educate, but unfortunately we are where we are. It is what it is. And that's why conferences like this are so important. So I'm not sure if anybody is keen to kind of lead on, examples like that, like Trevor just mentioned, are all too common. So what can we do in future to kind of change the narrative?
Do you want to go? I think, can everyone hear me okay? I think one of the key things here is internalised ableism, whether we're disabled or not. We have grown up in a society that conditions us to believe that disability is tragic and awful. And I think that despite the best intentions, sometimes journalists are not aware of those biases and that ableism, and how that completely colours the way that they look at disabled people. And so a really important thing for us to all be doing is to really show journalists those stereotypes they are holding in their heads without even realising it, and to break those apart. And I'm really sorry that you experienced that, Trevor, because what you do is absolutely incredible and so positive, and for that to not then be reflected is a really, really disappointing thing. So I think we need to start there, is getting journalists to understand disability is not the way that we have been brought up to think it is, and we need to change that.
I think for me, we're never going to change until... Can you all hear me? I've got a microphone, Oh, there we go. I can hear me now. There we go. Yeah, so for me, I think until we have disabled people in all areas of the media, so not just journalists, not just freelancers, until we have disabled editors, disabled producers, people who are making the decisions and who are sending the people out, who are doing the educating, then we're still going to be seeing that narrative. But that's what we need. But we need to make the media a more accessible place for disabled journalists to get in, and then have us at all of these areas, and not just for a special or just as a freelance journalist who's not on staff, because we're never changing it. It's awful that this still happens.
So that's a strong message to all the broadcasters in the room. So take heed.
I'm always free for work if you want to hire me.
There's one question in the front, and we have a question online. Okay. I'm not quite sure how the question from online comes through. Oh, okay. Relayed.
Magic.
So we've got a comment as well from Louise Holden, who works for Inclusion London. And she said that she wants to commend Disability Wales and Welsh Government for working together to improve lives, and that we need to do things differently and take risks and carry on how we are doing things currently, but taking the risks also. And Nia has also said, one second, I just lost it. To what extent do the various Welsh Government action plans schemes collaborate with broader UK initiatives such as TAP and deaf and disabled people in TV? It'd be great to have the Welsh work celebrated and contributing to the broader industry effort in the UK.
Well, I think perhaps because Dawn and I, I'm afraid, are going to have to go back down to the Senedd in a minute. Perhaps if we both just responded to these questions, and then we'll have to say farewell. Thank you for that, for the comment. Well, Trevor, can I just say, I want to meet you to talk about Wales and Africa, because, it sounds a great project. And we just do need to, the social model of disability should be training. If we haven't got the diverse workforce producers, they need to make sure that training empowers for them to understand. But just very quickly on these 2 points. Very interesting. Obviously, we're working in Wales to deliver on the Disability Rights Task Force. And we do believe we're leading the way in this, in our approach. But we know that there are things that we can learn from disability rights activists in England. But also, of course, Dawn and I also meet ministers in the UK government on many issues because we want to influence government. We haven't got powers over tax and benefits, for example, so a lot of the entitlement work that we're doing, for example, work and pensions, but also they have a disability minister who I meet. So we have a duty to work with and influence and learn from, and I think that's where Disability Wales is so important, learn from partners, not just in the UK, but of course globally, and I know Rianne's done an awful lot of work worldwide, but just that my contribution, and thank you. We will, it's not about, I think it may be taking risks. We've got to be bold, we've got to be determined, and we've got to deliver. Dawn.
Yeah, and I think, you know, there's two things really. Jane is absolutely right. There are certain things that we don't have government responsibility for, but that doesn't mean that we don't work with the UK government and other government bodies to influence. And as I was saying in my talk earlier, we do work with stakeholders in Wales. We do work with Ofcom. We do work with the DCMS in the UK that is responsible for broadcasting, and we make it very clear what our expectations are and what we are looking for in the delivery. But within Wales, you know, we're very much pushing the diversity agenda in broadcasting, in media, in journalism. We're working with the British film industry to develop diversity and inclusion frameworks. We've got a bursary fund with the National TV and Film School in Cardiff, where we are targeting training for careers and support with across the TV and film industry, both in front and behind the camera. So, you know, and it is specifically targeting underrepresented groups, including disabled people. And so the point that the kind of experience that you had, Trevor, I think, you know, we would start to see less of that if we had more people with disabilities in the production teams and actually delivering the programmes itself. So we're very much working with all of our stakeholders on delivering that kind of change.
Excellent, thank you very much.
I think we're going to have to leave now. Sorry about that, and have a great conference.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Everyone could stand in for us.
We've got... Sorry. With somebody, sorry, one second. We've got one question in the back, and then if we don't get a chance to get your questions in this session, then we'll jot them all down and we'll get them answered before the end of the day. Sorry, it's the one question with the microphone in the back. Sorry. Pardon?
Can you hear? You can hear now. Right, so unfortunately my targets have just left because it was going to be for Jane. But so for the two representatives who were staying, disability hate crime is on the rise. There was a recent Channel 4 News report on disability hate crime. I've suffered hate crime multiple times, intersectional sexuality and disability. My problem has been that North Wales Police, yes, I'm mentioning names, and my housing association, yes, I'm mentioning names, have policies to tackle hate crime and antisocial behaviour, but they don't actually implement them. How on earth is that going to change, and how on earth is the lives of disabled people going to be improved if the people in authority don't take it seriously? And hate crime is on the rise, and part of that is probably linked to media portrayals, unfortunately.
Brian, would you like to answer that?
Thank you so much for raising that. I think it's such an important point. And of course, this week is National Disability Hate Crime Week. And so there is a particular focus on hate crime. And although the ministers have gone, I know Welsh Government have put out materials this week for use on social media. I know DW will, once we get our conference over the line, you know, we will be sharing those, you know, to highlight them. But you're right. I mean, we saw hate crime rising during COVID. Well, during austerity, during COVID, and now during cost of living crisis. And the sad fact is that whenever there are challenging social and economic difficulties, you know, when, I don't know, people struggling for money, people are uncertain about the future, people feel, you know, disenfranchised, and unfortunately, in some cases, people turn on others who they perceive to be weaker than them, more vulnerable than them. And that is why the media have such a key role to play, because if those kind of understandings are being seen, you know, disabled people are being portrayed as vulnerable victims, you know, across the media, then, you know, then that kind of highlights the issue more and targets people. So, you know, an event like this, so it's, you know, there's a good side of the media, you know, that perhaps frothy side, but, you know, this really gets to the heart of the matter, because this is serious. This is actually people's lives. And, you know, and I think the media need to recognise their own responsibility. And I've got colleagues who are more actively involved in journalism, and hopefully will also want to add to this.
I think the big issue is, as you were saying, it's always either that we focus on how vulnerable and how horrible it is to be disabled, but then at the same time we're constantly focusing on, oh well, these people are not really disabled, they're all faking it so they can get the benefits or whatever. So, and the prevalence of campaigns such as, I'm going to mention it again, the awareness campaign that happened a couple of weeks ago, which is giving them more license, which is giving non-disabled people more license to go, okay, tell me about your disability, tell me about it in excruciating detail. And then when we don't want to give that, which is our prerogative, people go, well, if you're not willing to talk about it, you mustn't really be disabled. And it's like, it's exhausting, it really is. But I think until the media changes and realises that we're not just there for their clickbaity outrage stories, because when it is reported on disability hate crime, it's usually as a, can you believe this is happening? And it's like, yeah, because I live this life, I can fully believe this is happening, you know? And until we start reporting on them, until we start reporting on how literally just, can you believe it, then we're never going to get much further.
That's great. Thank you very much. I'm sorry we've run over. I'll take a note of your question.
We need a microphone if you're going to speak, because otherwise people can't hear Bill. No, you need a microphone.
Just bring in a microphone.
We will get to this on the next one.
Hi, I'm on the North Wales hate crime group, and we're helping out with the victim support on forum as well. And the increase there is over 35% during the as for hate crime during the pandemic. Now, one issue I will bring before you is people who are housebound. Who's listening to them? Who's talking to them? These people are getting attacked online. Okay, somebody needs to be talking to them. Yeah, they really do. Okay, I've got one person in who's got multiple disabilities. She's been made a criminal because of her disabilities. Why isn't somebody helping her? Oh, she's too hard to handle. We can't cope with her. Pardon? What system have we got?
That might be something that we can pick up with on the next panel session, when we've got some representatives from various media organisations to look at how do we get messages from people who are housebound into the media. How do we get their voices heard? So that might be something that can be raised in the next session. Thank you very much for that important comment.